Well, welcome back to Destination Aviation. I'm your host, Jeff Miller, and if this is your first time tuning in, welcome to Destination Aviation, your podcast for all things aviation related. With that being said, we've done a few things here. If you've seen them around, we've created a TikTok, my day, kind of like how the pound sign turned into hashtag. I remember the pound on the phone, and I remember TikTok being the sound of what my grandfather's old clock sound made. And actually, ironically, we have an episode coming up in the near future where the person that we were interviewing actually had a grandfather clock in the background. But it was perfect because every time he hit a perfect note on something that he wanted to emphasize, his clock would go. So kind of rings true into the background of, hey, things are happening. But no, we're on TikTok. I think we're getting a good response on there. People seem to like the videos. They pay for the royalties on the music, which is nice. So we get to throw that up and people can listen to it. So our TikTok handle is a DA Podcast 85. So trying to fall in line with what we do there on Instagram. So please feel free to jump on that. And if also, too, on our YouTube channel, yours truly. So I got this set up for broadcasting through not only my headsets, my David Clark's, but air traffic control. So audio and GoPro cameras on the aircraft that I fly. So we could probably do some videos and some actual destination videos on here. But I put my first one up, still working through some of the mechanics, working through some of the software, but I think it turned out well. It's about 30 minutes long. So I know if you get your podcasts on any of your platforms, your favorite platforms, if you go to our YouTube channel, it can be found through our website, www.destinationaviation.org. Feel free to jump on there. Not only do we put all the podcast episodes on there in MP format for people that want to view through that process, which is usually our lowest viewership is through the podcasts on YouTube. Most people use it through Apple or Spotify or whatever their favorite platform is. But if you want to get on and actually watch the video of yours truly flying, please do so. It was a flight from Chicago Executive Airport to Racine, Wisconsin, and then All Points, Illinois. But I have an idea for the next flight I want to do, a cool little airport here actually in Illinois. And so I'm going to do that flight sooner than later. We'll bring the GoPro along with us, and we'll also bring along the audio system so we can listen into that. And like I said, we take that and then we make some little videos to music that yours truly puts together. Obviously, I've started with a lot of flying music, but I am accustomed to 80s genre. I grew up with listening to that 70s, 90s, 2000s. So I started with, of course, like the iconic aviation songs that I think in my head, and there's still a few I want to go with down the road, like Foo Fighters, Learning to Fly, Tom Petty, Learning to Fly. There's a lot of Learning to Fly. There's other ones coming too, but we will do that, getting a good response on there, getting some people to follow up. I officially TikToking, so we'll see how that goes. But no, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all the comments that I've received in about Alex's first phase of his interviewing. So Alex Gertsen with NBAA, the National Business Aviation Association, received some comments in of when we're going to get up the next one. And, well, hopefully, if you're listening to this, then I've accomplished my mission and it's up and running. So thank you for listening to that. Thank you for tuning in for part 2. And well, without further ado, it's gonna if you haven't listened to part 1, I recommend go back and listen to part 1. Otherwise, if you're just starting here at part 2, it's gonna sound a little bit different because we're just gonna jump right into where we left off with Alex. So if it sounds weird to you, go back and listen to part 1, or go back and listen to part 1 for the first time, and then you'll pick up right where we're leaving off here on part 2. And then, as usual, we will do a wrap up here at the end of the episode. So after the beep here, we'll continue our conversation with our friend and a master of aviation, Alex Gertsen. On top of what you do for this community, and talk maybe a little bit about your organ transport flights, if you don't mind.
Yeah, that is something that has become a very special way for me to contribute my piloting skills to.
For those listening, because Alex knows I'm just going to jump right into questions here. So that was the pause there, folks, because it's not going to be about MIGs this time, I promise. Maybe not.
MIGs or MIGs. The airport and the airplane.
No, I mean, you had mentioned some of what you were doing here, and I saw some of the stuff you put out on your social media platforms. But and we've alluded to this with some of the importance of the general aviation, well, all airport systems, but general aviation being the predominant format of an airport in the United States. There's more general aviation category airports than any other category. But organ donation missions and how you got involved in that. Do you want to talk a little bit about what maybe people that don't understand what that actually is in aviation?
I would love to. It's something very special, and I hope that people have an opportunity to get involved as pilots in those types of missions. I'm sure there's lots of people listening who benefited from an organ transplant. And ultimately, Open Air is a company that is based at my home airport in Gaithersburg, Maryland, and I've known about them for a long time. And we mentioned that I got my private pilot certificate, my instrument rating, and for the longest time, I was flying my Mooney, being part of the business aviation efforts. But learning about what Open Air was doing with organ transports really sparked my determination to get my commercial pilot certificate so that I could fly those flights, because they're all flown under Part 135. So you have to be a commercial pilot with so many hours and fulfill other requirements and go through rigorous training for Part 135. And so Open Air operates a Cirrus aircraft. They have both SR-22, which is a piston single-engine propeller airplane, as well as the Vision Jet, the SF-50, which is a single-engine jet, a very innovative, very modern aircraft. Both are composite. Both have ballistic parachutes for the entire aircraft. And ultimately, there are some organ flights that you can fly in the SR-22, which is just transporting an organ in a box. And I've had the privilege to do that. The majority of those organ flights are actually flown in the jet when you transport the organ and the surgical team.
Wow.
And so that has created some very, very special opportunities for me to contribute the experience. It's one thing to earn the hours and to earn the experience and to transport people, but when you know that what you're doing saves lives or prolongs lives, it makes all of that time we've put in, pre-flighting in the cold, struggling, to learn things for written tests, many check rides that we had to pass. It makes all of that effort so worthwhile, because when you land and you know that you've delivered something so powerful as a human organ to someone, nothing compares with that feeling. Both completing a successful mission, a great flight, and bringing something that changes somebody's life.
No, I mean, literally life-changing, life-altering, life and death, and a lot of responsibility in your hands. I can't imagine what goes through your head while you're doing that. I know you're very mission-oriented, so I'm sure you are attentive to the mission at hand, because that's one thing I know about you is you're diligent in that side of the world. So they're lucky to have you doing it. I'm sure every mission is memorable, but any that point out to you that you'd want to talk about, that you're allowed to talk about, in at least vagueness?
Yeah, there's some in particular. I think transporting a heart. Heart has a certain connotation and certain meaning, and so the missions where the heart was the organ that we transported certainly is meaningful. Times where the weather was challenging, and that made those trips that much more intense, and completing them successfully was something that also sticks with you. I think one of the cool things is when you start doing these flights, when you do charter and you're flying passengers, you get to see a lot of sunsets. And from the sky. But when you do organ flights, a lot of those happen at night. So you leave your home airport late in the evening, because the operating rooms are scheduled during the day, and then they have these unscheduled surgeries for when an organ transplant opportunity pops up at night.
Okay.
And so a lot of times you'll be coming home and the sun is just rising, and you get to see the sunrise from the flight deck.
That's kind of beautiful, though. That's kind of like, starting anew, and life and rebirth kind of has this whole connotation to it. Do you, when you do that, how often are you on call? Is that how that would work for that? Do you sign up for a period to be on call to fly this if something were to happen, like monthly, or how does that logistically work for you? Are you on, basically, like, they'll say, Alex, there may be organ donations Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you're on call for those days, or how does it work?
So Open Air has a number of full-time pilots
Okay.
that are flying those organ flights. In the Vision Jet, I would serve as a safety pilot, as a second pilot. The aircraft is single pilot certified and typed, but for organ transport, the company that coordinates that requires two pilots. So Open Air operates those with two pilots. And typically I work as a contract pilot, so I augment crews where needed. And they would put out a text message to all the contract pilots saying, hey, we have an organ flight opportunity that has come up. Are you able to serve? And they give you the city pairs and the times that you would depart. Obviously, Part 135, you have a 14-hour crew day, so you can kind of determine as to where that would be.
Wow, that's amazing. I could talk to you all day long. I know I'm taking so much of your time, so I want to get into...
This is great. I want to make sure that the listeners don't get bored.
Okay, no, I'm not bored. I mean, literally, everything you've talked about, I could talk to you for hours about it, because you have, again, an amazing story, and when you share it, I know for me, everything you're doing, not only for advocacy, but stuff like this, you're truly impacting and changing people's lives, and those out there that, have had a loved one or maybe themselves needed, an organ transplant, having someone like you to do that. I mean, I don't even know how you say thank you for something like that. But
well, yes, thank you. It's really a privilege, and as all of us know, no flight is done by a single person. There's so many people on the ground, in the air, that take part in that. Those who work at FBOs, late night. A lot of times it's one person opening the gate for that organ transport vehicle to get airside, fueling the airplane, doing all of the things, making sure that the surgical crew that we're transporting is able to get their catering. It's their only opportunity to eat in flight between surgeries. All of those things, the air traffic controllers, right? And the list could go on and on and on, those who maintain the airplanes. And so I just play a very small role in it, and I appreciate that. I guess I should also mention to the listeners that those who are interested in doing aircraft charter, not to be skeptical of flying piston aircraft. While all of us aspire to fly jets, and it's pretty cool to fly a jet, the charters in a piston single and an SR-22 are really unique, where people who are chartering those aircraft truly appreciate aviation and the utility it provides. On that side, some of my cool, memorable flights and passengers have been, one was a father who wanted to see both of his sons play soccer. And they happened to be playing significant championship games on the same day. One was in college in Boston, and the other was in high school back in upstate New York. And so somehow he figured out that if he flew to Boston, he could get back to New York in time for their son's game. And I got to play a role in it. And when you're flying an SR-22, the person sitting right next to you, it's not somebody who is in the back who you just say hello, give them a safety briefing, and then thank them and say bye after. You really get to know them on the flight, and they get to know you. And so it's very meaningful that at the end of the day, when I got home to my home airport, I had a text about how his first son won the game, his second son played very hard, but the team didn't win the game. But it's so meaningful to be able to facilitate that, to know that he was at both of those games to achieve his goal.
I love that. He was a friend of yours?
No, it's just somebody who chartered the airplane.
Just someone chartered the airplane. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Somebody who I did not know until I showed up that morning.
Wow.
And my mission was to fly from Gaithersburg, my home airport, to White Plains, to pick up a passenger, take them to Hanscom Field in Massachusetts, wait for them, and bring them back to White Plains.
That's amazing.
When I get there, I start talking, I realize this is what's behind this mission.
Yeah. That human side to it. I mean, and if somebody wanted to, there's a commercial pilot out there, are they actively looking for more volunteers to help in this realm with organ transport flights? Or if someone were looking into it, is that available to someone out there if they are looking to volunteer their time as well?
It's a great question. It's not volunteering. This is a job.
Okay, it is a job. Okay.
You become a Part 135 contract pilot, so that requires drug testing.
Sure.
A lot of ground school, passing a check ride, and continuing to take check rides every 6 months as Part 135 requires.
Okay.
So it's quite rigorous, but ultimately it is available to others. There's a number of Cirrus operators or small single or light twin operators like that.
Okay.
All around the country, people who are just having enough hours to fly 135 can get into. A lot of these operations also have Part 91 flights.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of times these aircraft are owned, and the owners are not necessarily pilots. So you can fly them, and then you can have fewer hours than the Part 135 minimums for that to build hours to then do the organ flights in the 135. So I would definitely encourage people, if that's something that those who are listening want to do, you find a place and you work towards that goal and find a way. And certainly reach out to me, reach out to Jeff if we can help you navigate that along the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's such something that it's so significant to someone's life, right? That if there's a need for it, I would hope those that, kind of your perspective that if you're involved with it, I'm sure, it probably evolves and changes not only how you view aviation, but, it's another one of these connection points that I think sometimes, I don't want to say gets lost, but just the importance of not only your advocacy, the airports, but what we're doing here in general. So I love the mission, and I love what you're doing. And if there's a need for this type of flying for, if they're, I don't know, maybe they're fully staffed, but if they need people, there's a lot of really good pilots out there that I'm sure would love to be a part of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's certainly encourage people to seek out those opportunities.
Yeah. So with your advocacy and future vision, you have a role in the Aero Club of Washington, because you're a Mooney man, right? You're is that correct?
I'm a Mooniac, yes. You might call me a maniac, but I'm a Mooniac.
I love that. So in that role, what's kind of the is it like mentoring, giving back, advancing aviation culture? What does the Aero Club of Washington and the Mooney Summit? What's that look like for a listener? What are you doing there?
So those are two very different, very separate organizations.
Okay.
The Aero Club of Washington is your typical regional aero club.
Okay.
I should say the one in Washington is not typical because it's one of the first. It's actually started around the time of the Wright brothers, and
really,
they actually spoke at the one of the early luncheons. Yeah. So the Aero Club promotes and brings together the aviation community in Washington, D.C. We have monthly lunches. We have a number of awards and scholarships. In fact, we just awarded a number of scholarships to high school and college students for aviation just this last luncheon earlier this month. Later on in the month, for example, we have a congressman speaking, Congressman Rick Larson, who is the ranking member on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. And then we'll give an Engen trophy to two industry giants, Mary Miller from Signature Aviation and Pete Bunce, who recently retired from General Aviation Manufacturers Association. And then at the end of the year, the Aero Club has a big dinner called the Wright Memorial Dinner, where the Wright trophy is presented to someone for their lifelong achievements in aviation, as well as recognizing persons of the year, somebody who's done something more recent and more significant.
No, I love that. So Aero Club of Washington. So that is, it's its own entity, not associated with AOPA, NBAA. It's
Correct.
standalone. Okay.
Correct. It's its own entity. It's a membership organization. Only costs $75 a year to join. So
Okay.
for those who are listening in the DC area, I highly recommend it. I recommend that you get involved in these lunches and the networking that takes place around the Aero Club.
Are
It
there
has a very strong.
more clubs, or is it just DC?
I know that New York has one. I think there's most of the cities have one.
Okay, so if somebody went to aeroclub.com, I don't know. Let's say you put in Aero Club of Washington, that should drive you to, if they have other chapters throughout the United States.
They would be independent. They would be independent Aero clubs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the one in Washington is just in Washington. I think the New York one is called the Wings Club.
Oh, okay. Okay. But the same thing, general idea, advocacy, nurturing the next generation.
Exactly. One of the things that happened throughout my career is I talked about the different companies that I transitioned through. All of that happened in Washington. And the Aero Club has been one constant where I had a chance to meet a lot of people who I work with in the organizations I've been transitioning to, or see people who I worked with in the past, or see people who I'm working with in partnership, all during those lunches and networking opportunities.
No, I love that. That's amazing. And since I tried to jam them both together, because they both independently should live on their own. The Mooney Summit. You're a Mooney maniac. What is that? What's that? What you got going on there?
The Mooney Summit is an incredible organization. A lot of the type clubs will have their organization. Bonanzas have one, Cirrus's, and so on. Mooney's have a couple. And the Mooney Summit, to me, is the most prevalent one. Because not only do we advocate for safety and hold an annual meeting that's coming up in September this year, but we also have a foundation. The foundation supports downed Mooney pilots and their families, and that's something that's very unique. The CEO of the organization is a flight instructor, and he was instructing in the Mooney. Unfortunately, they had engine failure on takeoff and had a hard landing. He happened to survive, but took a number of injuries. It took him a long time to recover. Unfortunately, the student who he was with didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it was very hard, but he got to see the challenges of that and how there was no support structure, how there's no support for the family. Yeah. And so he wanted to change that. And the foundation, as the Bill Gilliland Foundation, is named after that student.
Wow, that's so powerful. In this industry, I think if you're in it, I'm going on 25 years in this industry, and there's two things, I've kind of learned, and the sad part of the industry is eventually you probably will know someone, that passes on in an aviation incident. But for all of us, I think it gives us a moment, one, to appreciate what that person's done for the industry, but two, learn from whatever happened, and sometimes outside of our own control. But and the other thing that I learned is Mooney pilots are so passionate. If I say anything about a Mooney pilot, if you fly a Mooney, it is your plane. It's your mission. And a lot of great people that I've met and had the pleasure of dealing with, but they love their Moonies. I'm assuming you love your Mooney.
I absolutely love my Mooney, and I love the Mooney I had before my Mooney. And we love to fly fast, as you said, but most importantly, we do it very efficiently. So whenever we post our ground speed, we also typically post the fuel burn in social media to show how little we're burning to go that fast.
I love that. So upcoming events for you, you're going to be in Oshkosh, is that correct?
Absolutely. Oshkosh is something that I would not miss. Encourage all your listeners, if they haven't been, to go, because you would just be hooked. It's truly an aviation celebration, truly an aviation homecoming and aviation gathering. NBAA has a big presence there. We have a tent.
I remember.
It's air conditioned.
It was. You were so gracious. It was actually funny. So for the listeners, I've been in it a while, but this is the first time I've been to Oshkosh was last year. And first thing when I went to NBAA, where you have your setup there, your staff was so gracious to let us in, and just they were enthusiastic, happy to be there. And I asked, "Where's Alex at?" And it was your day. I don't know if day off's the right term for it because I know you were doing a lot of stuff, but
my day to be part of the show.
Yeah,
not to have tent duty.
Yes,
exactly.
And so I actually saw you out in a crowd, and you were right in the middle of stuff. You were carrying things, and I was like, I'm going to let him enjoy his day. I'm not going to bug him. But I did. It was an amazing opportunity, one for me to go up and not only visit with you guys, but to see just what that is. And you spend the whole week there, correct?
Absolutely. I arrived with a group who I've been camping with for many years. We have a very robust arrival sequence where we arrive together as a flight. We camp together. We have infrastructure that we put up. We have dinner at the campsite every night in the North 40. And so it's quite an elaborate production as well. But I want to mention for the airport professionals who are listening that on Wednesday, which is July 23rd this year, 10 a.m. at the NBA tent, I'm going to be hosting a little gathering. So I encourage all of your listeners who are airport professionals to come out and enjoy some great pastries and some coffee. And if you're not an airport professional, please come out as well and mingle, ask questions, interact. We're going to have some people from various airport advocacy groups and airport advocacy associations around the country who are at Oshkosh. Just a great way to come together on these common issues that we've been discussing on this podcast. So be a great way to meet each other and to get together.
Oh yeah, and I've been to some of yours in the past that you host at other conferences, and you do a great job. Someone like you connecting other people together. You've done it in my career, and I've always greatly appreciated it. If I have an issue, you've connected me with someone that potentially went through it, or someone who give me some guidance, or even yourself directly. So. One, thank you for that, but I would say kudos if anybody's listening that wants to go to one of these. Especially, if it's like last year, I went up with a group of people, but your first time to, either a conference or an event like this, someone like you that's warm and inviting and almost, you make people feel like they're a part of it, and by that, I mean, because it's a level like school day, right? You're a little nervous, you don't know people, and you're always so gracious to bring people into the fold. So I know as a professional in this industry, I've always appreciated that. And I guess I would say NBAA, your setup there, it's not a booth, I forget what you probably call it. It's a tent. It's a nice tent. I hate to do it injustice by calling it a tent, because it's actually pretty swanky.
It's an air-conditioned tent, but ultimately don't give any more away. Let people come out to Oshkosh, see it, experience it. Yeah. Everyone's invited. You don't have to be a member.
I was just going to ask. So anybody listening can drop by the NBAA tent.
Absolutely. We have all kinds of giveaways. We have water cooler, so you can refill your water bottle. If you want a place to watch the air show, we're right on the flight line. We have comfortable rocking chairs and loungers that you can lean back in and just enjoy the air show. If you want to meet somebody in an air-conditioned space, it's a great place for that as well.
I love it. The only thing I would add is if you're like me and you're not like Alex and you drove in and you're sitting in those lovely chairs you have, eventually you do have to walk back to the parking lot. You make it such a nice, comfortable affair. I didn't want to leave. Well, along with go ahead.
Bring a tent and camp. I've been coming to Oshkosh since 2005, since I got my first airplane. Wow. And I've only missed two events. I love camping there. I love the camaraderie that happens at the campsite. To me, that's the quintessential Oshkosh. There's the commercial parts of the air show where the hangars and all the tents are. And then in the campsite in the North 40, Camp Scholler, where you truly get together with those who are living on the airfield and just living, talking, breathing aviation for 10 days.
I love that. I really do. I just had the pleasure of meeting the airport director up there down in Atlanta at the AAA annual, and one invited me to come up during Oshkosh, which it's gracious. And then I told him too, I was like, you have such an amazing complex here. I would love, I've seen it now. I went up earlier this year, but to experience it without Oshkosh going on, because it's a huge area. And in my mind, as an airport professional, boggles me how they do this. Now, you've mentioned you actually, I think, started the AAA General Aviation Conference, right? And back in Denver Centennial,
2006, right? Yeah. So this is going to be the 19th year for it.
19th year, yep. And that's August 24th to 26th in Arlington, Texas.
Absolutely, yep.
I will be there with you. And then, do you know who's hosting next year, though?
I don't.
Oh, no, that's
Who might that be? I wonder if it's somebody on this podcast.
It's quite possible. I was going to put in a no Mooney exemption on that one. Kidding. I would love to. I would love if you find yourself passing through PWK, stop in your Mooney on the way to Oshkosh.
I will be doing that this year.
Okay.
That's in the cards. That's the plan. I'm coming up with my son, and we plan to spend a few days in Chicago.
I love it. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
We'll be putting some rubber on your runway at PWK.
Yeah. Now you have a small conference, right? Very, very tiny conference that you put on in October, right?
Yes, only 20,000 people come to that in Las Vegas.
Just very tiny little get together.
It's so enormous that we actually can't just be in one place. We're not just at the convention center, but we also take a significant amount of space at Henderson Airport for the aircraft display. We're calling it the Aircraft Connection this year.
I love it. I had taken a hiatus, just my job career and where I was in professionally, and I had not been to NBAA-Bace in over a decade, and I love our one to get out to not only associate with like yourself and learn from others, but the people that put on in the booths there and what they're doing and the technology and the aircraft, and not only that, but you also have some amazing speakers, right? So you have a keynote this year, correct?
Yeah, we have Dirk Bentley this year. I think people may know him as a country singer and songwriter.
They may.
Quite popular.
I would.
One of the songs, the lyrics are a little controversial in aviation.
I've already had a few people tell me, don't expect them to be at our booth this year when Derek Bentley is talking, because they're going to be over there.
And they should be. Everyone should be at the keynote. But what people may not know is that Dirks is a very accomplished aviator. And I won't ruin his punchline, but ultimately, as he grew in his singing career, he grew in his aviation career because he needed to go further, travel more, fly more capable aircraft, as I have, and as all of us have as we grew in our careers and in our lives. So he's got a really great story to share.
I love that. I won't ask any more questions because I don't want to ruin it. I'm looking forward to myself. I don't want to ruin it for myself, so I can hear it. PWK is going to have a booth again this year. It's actually going to be bigger than it was last year. So we needed more space than we had last year. But we did. You know what? It's funny because and you guys are always so good about your initiatives, and I know sustainability has been a big push from NBAA, and even with us as vendors at NBAA-Bace, and as an organization. What we really did is we pivoted to high-end kind of those giveaways. And whether that's like a Puma bag or whatever it might be, because our intention behind that is somebody's not going to put that in the trash can, right? I would wager to see somebody throw a Puma bag in a trash can.
You do have very cool giveaways, very practical, and some fun ones too.
We do have some fun ones. We have some, for the viewers that can't listen, I'll show it to Alex on my screen. But we're coming up with a little mascots. One of them is an owl, and if you don't know our name at Chicago Executive, it was Palwalkie. So this is Palwalkie. He likes to fly at night. I'm gonna come with the whole backstory for him. Anyways, so you have not only at NBAA, but you spotlight military and collegiate connections at YoPro. I see so much happening now with NBAA YoPro on like my LinkedIn and stuff. It seems like it's really taking. I don't know if taking off right, because it seems like it was always a good program, but I see so many younger folks that are involved with that, and it's such a cool success story. It seems like
it really has been. So you mentioned YoPro. That's our Young Professionals organization. Last BACE, they celebrated their 10th anniversary. So this year will be 11 years. And we just had about 60 of them come into Washington, D.C. We call it a fly-in. And they came out to Capitol Hill. And they talked to their elected officials, congressmen, senators, about the importance of business aviation. You mentioned sustainability. That's a big theme for us. NBAA has an initiative called Climbing Fast. And that's something to reinforce our commitment to the environment and to being carbon neutral by 2050. So climbingfast.com is a great website for more information, promoting SAF, promoting all the initiatives that will allow us to get to that point.
No, I love that. I love what you guys are doing there. And it's, as Chicago Executive Airport turns 100 years old in 2026, the first airport in the Chicagoland region to turn 100. I know we've been working closely with you as one of our partners, just to celebrate, the history of not only our facility, because a lot of these airports have great stories. Even we were talking earlier about Santa Monica, and to highlight the impact of it. It's a good opportunity for us, and we're looking forward to doing that. Starting off this year, at least mentioning it to folks. Last year we had a program running where we were actually working with students, and we showcased it at NBAA-Bace last year, where it was a little competition to design our 100-year logo.
That's awesome.
We got a lot of really good submissions there. So thank you for advocating for us there on that
Absolutely.
front.
I can't wait to see how it comes together. I can't wait to be there to celebrate with you. This is so exciting.
Yeah, it's great.
100 years of aviation at your airport. I remember when I was at Lockheed Martin, we celebrated the 100th anniversary of powered flight.
Wow.
That was 20 years ago in 2003.
Yeah.
More than 20 years ago. And we presented a poster to the FAA administrator. It's still hanging in the FAA headquarters building. But now it's exciting to see major airports like Chicago Executive hit their 100-year anniversary.
Yeah,
That's
like Kelly's
really cool.
Mail Air Act, right, in that 1920s. I think, right, we are all starting to hit that period now in the 20s where we're seeing a lot of the evolution of where airports started from, and it's a good opportunity to showcase again what we do. Now, I want to rapid fire some questions at you here before I let you go.
Yeah, before you do that though, I just want to mention.
Sure, go ahead, please.
One more thing about NBA.
Please do.
Especially for your military aviators, those who are looking to transition to civilian. We're doing something unique this year.
Okay.
And doing the Military Connect. It's going to be the inaugural year. So for those who are looking to transition from the military to business aviation, I want to get everyone excited about that segment at BACE. I'm sorry if we didn't get a chance to mention that.
No, please, yeah.
Earlier. And I'm ready for rapid fire.
No, I love that. Just real quick, though, on that front, so if you're military, you can, if you're attending the show, you can connect with NBAA personnel to kind of line up what you would need to do there for the Connect side of that.
There's a whole program for that. Yep.
There is.
Maybe we can post a link with the show.
I will. Yeah, absolutely. If you provide me with the link, I will make sure to put it in the show notes.
Yeah, we have Military Connect, we have Collegiate Connect for college students, and we have the Young Professional Organization.
I love that. I don't think I qualify for any of those, especially the young one. Thanks, Alex.
No, but we need you as a mentor. You have so much to offer.
Oh, sure, absolutely. And anybody wants me to mentor, I'll give you a podcast sticker while you're at it. No, now this is going to be a loaded question, but what's your favorite airport to land at and why? Now, loaded because I mean, it's got to be PWK. I'm kidding.
And it's one of those. It's hard for a pilot to answer that question because all the airports are so unique and so different. But to me, I would have to say my two home airports, Gaithersburg, Maryland, GAI, and the Boca Raton Airport, BCT. And what I love about coming home is after a long trip especially, or when you've been fighting weather on the trip, finally you tune to that AWAS frequency for Gaithersburg, and you hear that familiar voice on the recording, and then you see the site picture and the lights. And a huge shout out to our airport manager, Justin Bolam, he really upgraded our lighting to LED. We have a great PAPI. We have a really awesome rotating beacon that you can see from far away. So I love that experience of landing at the home airport, announcing on the CTAF that I'm final for runway 14, or coming to the Boca Raton airport, being final for runway 5. I'm flying right over my high school, where as I was changing classes, I would look up and see aircraft and say, one day I want to pilot those. Now I get to look back and say, hey, I am here looking back at where I was 30 years ago.
I love that so much. The only airport I haven't been able to fly into that I've worked at is Laredo. And if I want to make a far trip south, maybe someday I can check that off. But every other airport I've had the pleasure of working at, which is 8 now, I've been able to land and take off at.
Absolutely. That in that category, airport that I haven't landed at yet. For me, that's DCA. I'd love to get DCA in my logbook, but it's very complex after 9/11. I would assume. So one tool or technology you can't live without on your flight deck. It has to be the iPad with ForeFlight.
Oh yeah, that absolutely. I don't know, but I showed up for. The reason why I didn't land in Laredo is I took a hiatus from flying when I was there. Multiple things. I mean, you talked about the ADIZ. I think that there's that down on the border down there, and so we had Air and Marine, and with their helicopters, and there's a lot of activity down there. Plus, it was 120 degrees. I didn't know if I wanted to be sitting in a 172 in that, at least on the ground. And so I took a hiatus. But when I came here to get checked out, I fly out of PWK here. I showed up with my brand new, chart supplement bisectional, and the nice person that was doing it was like, "What the heck is all that?" He's like, "Here, get ForeFlight, get a Sentry," and I did, and I would never look back. It's such an amazing tool to fly with. It absolutely is.
Absolutely. I was fortunate that as a technology guy, the iPad came out in 2010, and I was at Oshkosh looking at them, and there were actually a number of booths for companies that have created an app for a moving map display, but none of them worked. And then I got to one that said ForeFlight, and theirs was so great. It was so much ahead of its time already in 2010, and the iPad just came out. That's because they were developing it many years ahead, and I got to meet the founders, and ultimately flew home with it and never looked back.
I think they're in Aspen now, right? I saw an article recently. Someone who was part of the original ForeFlight. It was an article about hangars, I think, or something to do at Aspen Airport, and they mentioned, he was one of the inventors of ForeFlight.
Correct. Yeah, Tyson Weiss. He's based in Aspen, and worked very closely. Aspen is one of the airports that still has some access challenges currently. So
absolutely.
It's great that he's there and he's actively flying.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we know you're a Mooney maniac, but is that your dream aircraft?
It is. If you ask me for my present aircraft, absolutely.
Yep.
For the past, I would say Tupolev 154. That's the aircraft that I first took to the air in.
Really? Okay.
For the listeners may not be familiar, it looks very similar to the Boeing 727.
Yeah.
It's a 3-engine passenger airliner. And for the future, I aspire, one day, if I can make it happen, to fly a TBM. I think that's the most awesome business aviation aircraft, fast, economical, and obviously more capable than my Turbo Mooney.
I was talking with someone recently. They just upgraded from a Baron to a TBM, and I think they're very happy with the upgrade.
It's a great transition. So hopefully one day.
I love that. And then kind of rounding out here, most rewarding moment in aviation. Do you have one that really kind of is the epitome of what you think? Yeah, that was it for me. I love that. And I know you've already shared a lot of examples, so maybe it's one you've already shared. But is there a moment for you in aviation that is your moment?
Yeah, there are many. But if I had to pick one, I would say taking someone up for the first time and giving them the opportunity to manipulate the controls of a general aviation aircraft and seeing their face light up. That moment is so incredible. Almost takes you back to reliving your first moment.
Absolutely.
But, like anything, giving can be so much more enjoyable and pleasurable than receiving. And so kind of giving that gift of aviation is just absolutely amazing.
Absolutely. It's funny because we work in it, and so many of our people in our orbit are pilots. And so in my own mind, sometimes I take it for granted. I think, right, is it around 600,000 or so pilot certificates in the United States, around that?
I think just about, yeah.
And 375 million people that are in population in the U.S. And so, just last week I took somebody up for the first time, and it is, I mean, if you, especially, flying can, it's a kind of an inherent fear for most people, and so, giving an experience that is memorable for them, that's enjoyable, and they're like, oh, this isn't so scary. Like, I could do this. I could fly. And we've actually had people that I've taken up that have gotten their pilot's license, and gone off to do that. So,
yeah, exactly. It's very rewarding. I guess if I had to pick a couple of other moments, I would say flying on Air Force One. That was very special.
You actually got to fly on it. The Kurt 747, correct?
Correct.
It was no. I said I had an opportunity to be on it, but never to fly on it. That's amazing. I love that. Any advice for anybody that wants to get into aviation?
Yeah, never give up. If that is something that you want to do, it's not going to be easy. It may seem easy at first, but then you'll find something that will surprise you that you're not good at, and you'll have to find a way to overcome it. Fortunately, there's so many mentors. There's so many of us who are so passionate about what we do that you'll find someone who's traveled the path and can help extend the hand and figuratively pull you up so that you can overcome your challenges.
Absolutely.
I think also,
yeah,
in aviation, if it's truly your true passion, don't compromise. Not everything in aviation is about being a pilot. We wear so many proverbial hats, like being an airport manager, right?
Yeah.
So some of those hats are truly hats. Some of them are
right.
uniforms. Some of them we wear ties. Whether you might be an aviation attorney or in some role where you wear a suit. Sometimes you wear overalls. Maybe you're doing maintenance.
Yeah.
Flight suits, or just fun T-shirts, or polos like you're wearing today. That let's say Chicago Executive, or mine that says NBAA.
Absolutely. It's interesting because I get an opportunity to talk with local students at the high school, and I tell them, I was like, like everybody, I started off in this, and I was like, oh, I want to fly. That's what I want to do. And at the time, salaries, it was just so atrocious, really, to be a pilot, salary-wise, that you really had to kind of say, is it worth investing? And obviously we're in a completely different climate now, which I love, but I always say a backup plan is good, right? To have a backup plan when you get into it. In aviation, not even necessarily a backup plan in a different orbit, whether that's like here. And I was like, my job I find so rewarding, and I also get to fly for recreation. I get to fly for pleasure, and where I wanted to really turn it into my career, I look at it now, and I look at it with a little different perspective, and I'm like, I get to do what I love, and that's flying for myself and for my family, my friends, but at the end of the day, I'm in the industry, and I'm close to it, and I get to have conversations with people like you that are so passionate about it, and all these cool events and Oshkosh, but also too, it didn't become a job for me actually flying. It was something that, for myself, I'm like, I get to be a part of it, but I don't necessarily have to make it my day job. And where I would have loved to make it a career, also too, I would say to people, if you find yourself, whether you're working for an advocacy group or you're working for an airport, or if you're involved, to your point, all the examples you made, that can be so rewarding, because you get to, a lot of the examples you had, where you not only get to fly, for yourself and recreation, but all the great things that you're doing with organ transplants and those things that really help people's lives. And so Is there any way for listeners to find out more about your work, Alex, where to connect with you beyond NBAA?
I think NBAA is the place to find me.
That's the place to find you.
.org, and then I'd be happy to talk about my airport advocacy, airport safety, and the advanced air mobility work that I'm doing at NBAA, and all the work that I'm doing outside with Mooney Summit, the Aero Club that we talked about, mentoring careers, all of that. Happy to talk.
Is there anything, I know I've kept you so long, so you'll probably say no. Is there anything I did not ask that you would like to say?
I think we're very thorough. It seems like we've covered a lot of things. Hopefully the audience is not burnt out.
Oh, I don't think they're burnt out. I mean, again, I'm going to go back to this. Your story's amazing, and I'm going to put this on the record, on the air here. I think you're the nicest person I've ever met. And I don't really mean that in any other way besides, a lot of times, in our career, we talk about the mentors and the people that pulled us along. But the reality of life is sometimes you meet people that just aren't friendly or aren't nice. And that's a reality of life. And you're going to have to deal with that. And I know coming into the career and my side to it and getting to know you, you have a true passion for it. You have a way about you that connects people. When you told me you wanted to be on the podcast, I love the thought and the idea because I truly appreciate your passion. And, quite honestly, I wish we had a lot more people in the industry that were like you, that really push for change. I know we have a lot of good people, but I'm going to go on the record and say you're the best. So I'm going to leave that there. And I don't say that. You can listen to the other podcasts. I won't say it to anybody else. It's Jeff Miller's personal opinion. I know you're going to be very modest about it, but you do so much for this industry. And I want to say thank you from my side to it.
Oh. That's very, very kind. I appreciate your kind words, and thank you. And I'm fortunate to work for an organization that supports those efforts, that fuels my passion and allows me to turn my dreams into reality, and to live the life and the career that I'm so passionate about, and to interact with so many people and contribute in such positive ways.
Well, thank you so much, Alex, for being on Destination Aviation, and I'm sure we will see you at one of the many locations we mentioned that you're going to be over the next year.
Absolutely. Would love to be seen, would love to meet your listeners. So if you're listening to the podcast and you come out to some of these events, please introduce yourself, and if I can be a resource to you, please don't hesitate to reach out. So a friend of Jeff's is a friend of mine.
Thank you so much. The Mooney Maniac, Alex Gertsen. Thank you so much.
And your airport advocate.
Exactly. Well, listeners, that is our time with Alex Gertsen. Thank you, Alex, so much for taking the time to come on the podcast with us. From what I'm seeing into the emails and whatnot, people are enjoying the opportunity to learn from you. I had somebody reach out and say how knowledgeable you are, which, of course, comes across even when I listen to this episode of both these episodes of the podcast. And I'm looking forward to visiting with Alex if he does stop by on his way to Oshkosh this year and meeting his kid, which will be fantastic. So I really appreciate it again. And I appreciate all of you tuning in to listen to us. I'm getting, like I said at the beginning of this episode, a lot of responses from people coming in. And I really do truly appreciate everybody that comes in. Appreciate? Yes, let's go with appreciate. It's funny because you hear so many times on a podcast, robotic and, all this stuff kind of going back and forth. But I really want this channel, I want people to tune in to feel, yeah, this is a real person, and this is, we're all on this mission together. And I'm hoping that, I'm hearing from a lot of people. We have some really cool episodes coming up of some folks that I've met along the way, and actually some people that maybe will be interviewing me, which will be fantastic. I did want to mention, I was reading on an article from Fox News. It was actually based off a Reddit post of someone who had a carry-on bag that they snuck in behind what they referred to in the article between first and C class, but let's go with economy. But they brought this carry-on in and put it behind the curtain that separates first class from the rest of the aircraft. And so the whole article was like, why didn't people catch it? Did the flight attendants ignore it? Did they miss it? And it turned into this whole etiquette thing about flying. You'll know that I've talked a little bit about flying etiquette, and we all have our own version of what flying etiquette should look like. So not saying that necessarily my flying etiquette matches with everyone's, but I would love to hear what you have to say about that. I did want to get to one question that we had in, because as these are adding up, and I'm going to say too, we have been doing a lot of interviews and we're going to continue. We have a lot lined up, but I am going to put up probably just an episode of me going over some of the stuff that comes in from all of you listeners, and also to maybe focus on a story, because some people tell me they like the stories, and we'll get into a story. I have some cool stuff I think that we could all talk about. So I will get one of those episodes out here soon, and so the one question we're going to get to for this episode is, if airplanes had personality types, which one would be the diva of the skies and why? And I mean, it has to be the 747. You don't get to have the reputation of the 747 without being a diva. So, but that's my opinion. You can feel free to share if you look at it differently. Patty, I hope that answers your question. And just for the other listeners out there, Patty asked that we use her first and last name and her town, but I will default to first and town only unless you tell me differently. But I really appreciate the question coming in. As I said at the beginning, go find us on TikTok, DA Podcast 85. We're also on Instagram, and as always with our email, dapodcast85@gmail.com. You can find us there, and then you can always find anything that we're doing at www.destinationaviation.org. If you're out flying yourself, stay safe. If you're out traveling and listen to this, safe travels to you. I just saw TSA screen their most passengers ever in a single day, which was June 22nd, and they screened 3.1 million travelers. So be kind to your TSA agents as you're rolling through those checkpoints. I know we can all get a little frustrated, but it's busy and it's travel time and people want to go places, and I love it. I love seeing people get out and about. I myself have a trip planned to Michigan, but we'll get some episodes out before then, talk a little bit about it. Until next time, my friends, I will see you down the runway.